Hey guys, Taryn Elouise here and welcome to part 2 of my stage makeup series. This tutorial is all about that bass, no treble. Wait, what? Sorry guys, but I'm not lying, this tutorial is all about how I do my base for stage makeup. So if you're interested in finding out some helpful tips, then please keep watching this video and I really hope you enjoy it guys. So I think the most important part of stage makeup base is to make sure that it is going to stay all day and all night. So there are a few important things that you need to do to make sure that this happens. So the first step is priming your skin. So first thing you need to do is make sure you moisturize your skin, and then you also need to use a primer so that your makeup is going to stay all day. I like to use a few just to get the best finish possible. It really depends on your skin type and what you're looking for. But I like to use a hydrating one, and I also like to use a pore filler just to help give me a nice flawless finish. A pore filler is also really helpful to anyone that gets lots of pimples because it's going to help smooth your skin out. We want to get the most flawless skin possible because this is going to look cleanest and best on stage. So you just want to gently rub the primer into the skin, and then you want to let it sit for at least 5 minutes so that it can soak into the skin before you go in with any foundation. The next step, and probably the most important step, is foundation. Rule number 1, make sure that your foundation matches your neck, not your face. As you can see, I'm fake tanned, so it needs to match my body, not the color of my face. I would always suggest to senior students to get a fake tan for a dance concert. The harsh lights on stage are going to wash you out, so if you have a tan, you're just going to look a lot better color on stage. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's totally fine. Just make sure your foundation matches your neck and body, not your face. Rule number 2, make sure that you use a full coverage foundation. This means that when you put your foundation on, it is going to cover everything. Every freckle, every blemish, everything. You need to make sure that you're working with a blank canvas. You're not having patchy, different colored skin. This is going to give you a really clean, slick, flawless look on stage and look best under the harsh lights. Rule number 3, make sure that you blend it in. I prefer a sponge. I just feel like it gives me a really flawless finish and it's really easy to blend into the skin. If you want to use a brush, that's totally fine. If you prefer using your fingers, you can, but I would always suggest using a sponge or brush afterwards just to make sure it's blended well. And very importantly, make sure you blend it down your neck so that you are all one color. To make sure that I get a nice flawless finish, I like to use a combination of foundations. Make sure if you are going to do so that you do it slowly. So as you can see, I've put one layer on and now I'm going in with a second layer. Make sure you don't just put a whole heap of product on your face because it's going to be very difficult to blend out and it's not going to blend evenly. So if you are going to build your coverage, make sure that you do it slowly. And of course, blend it down your neck. Now if you look at your face and your body look a different color, then this is not the right color foundation for you. Always make sure that when you're doing your foundation, you're in a nice bright lit area. If you need to, go outside with a mirror to check your foundation. You need the daylight to know if the color is the right one for you. Another tip to make sure that your makeup stays in place all day and all night is to use a setting spray. I like to use the MAC Fix Plus. It just works really, really well, and I actually spray it a few times throughout the process. Next step is concealer. Now I use a very light concealer to highlight my face. So I place this in the center, on the bridge of my nose, underneath my eyes, on my chin, and on my forehead. And this is going to highlight these areas. Highlighting and contouring add dimension to your face. After we put our foundation on, we're all one color, so adding some highlight and some contour is going to bring shape and definition back to your face, which is very important for stage. You can obviously go a lot more dramatic because this is for stage. So as you can see, I'm using a very light color compared to my foundation, and when I contour, I'm going to go in with a lot darker color. And I just blend that out with my sponge. If you have any pimples or any redness or anything that you want to conceal that are not in these areas, make sure that you use a concealer the exact same color as your foundation so it's going to blend in. I am not using this color to conceal any of that. So make sure that you use a concealer the exact same color as your foundation if you need to conceal anything that is not in these areas. I like to do the bulk of my eye makeup before I do foundation, so if there's any fallout or anything, it's not going to mess up my foundation. So I'm just using a smaller brush just to make sure I get into all those little crevices, and so I'm not going to mess up any of that eye makeup. So just make sure you're really careful around these areas. The third most important thing to do is set your makeup with a powder. No matter if you are a very dry skinned person or a very oily skin, everyone needs to set their makeup. So I'm using a very light color to set where I put a light concealer, and then I go in with a powder that is the same color as my foundation to set everywhere else. I always suggest using a powder that still has some coverage in it, just to make sure we are having the most flawless base possible. But if you feel that you have enough coverage with your foundation and concealer, you can use a translucent powder, which is a powder that will set your makeup but not add any more color. Just make sure when you set your foundation and concealer with powder that you're very gentle and pat the brush into the skin. You don't want to go swirling it around because it could move all the work that you've just done. Now that we've highlighted, I then like to contour. This is very important on stage because it's going to give your face a lot more shape, and you can also carve out areas just to give yourself a bit more definition in the face. So as you can see, I'm carving out my cheekbones. I like to go from my temples around down my cheekbones. Make sure that when you're contouring, you're using a grey toned bronzer or contour color, because contour is meant to mimic a shadow, and that's what gives you that chiseled look. Do not use an orange tone bronzer. So I like to do my cheekbones, my jawline and my temples using the exact same color. And this brush is actually a contour brush. It's very skinny, so it's going to give you a nice defined line. Contouring is a very awesome trick to help make your features look bigger or smaller. So I actually put it underneath my lip, which helps make my lips look a lot bigger, and then I go down the bridge of my nose just to make my nose look a little bit slimmer. The next step is bronzer, and you'll be able to see the clear difference in color from my contour to my bronzer. So as you can see, this is a lot more orange base, and this is going to warm up the skin. Now I do place it in very similar areas to my contour, but obviously on a lot bigger brush, and this can also help to blend out your contour. Just make sure with all these powders that you're not using anything with a shimmer in it. You want to use all matte colors. The next step is blush, and you just want to use a color that complements your skin the best. I would say for more bronze, people use more of a peachy tone. If you're a lot paler, then go for more of a rose pink tone. And like always, blend it out. Now the next step is definitely not necessary, but I thought I would share it with you for those of you that are a bit more advanced and want to try it out. This is called baking, and I'm not talking about the kitchen. So first thing, you need a translucent powder. This is a powder that has no color, and I'm using a sponge, and I'm just going to pack a whole heap of that on my face in certain areas. So I'm going underneath my cheekbones, and I'm going to go underneath my eyes. This is just going to help brighten those areas and really make sure that they're nice and defined. So you just pat it onto the skin in a nice thick layer, let it sit for a few minutes, and then you're going to blend it away, and you're just going to see a nice crisp brightened area and a nice clear contoured line. I'm then going in with highlighter. Now this is the only shimmer that I'm going to place on my face, and I'm going to place it on the tops of my cheekbones, on my nose, on my forehead, my chin, and my Cupid's bow. And this is going to highlight these areas and bring them forward. We do not want to use any other shimmers because the lights are very bright, and if you use too much shimmer all over the place, your whole face is going to look really shiny on stage. I'm then just setting it with some more Fix Plus, and this is just going to make sure that it all stays in place. The last step is lips, so I just like to use a makeup wipe just to clean off all my foundation on my lips and make sure they're nice and clean and just pat them dry. I then go in with a lip liner. Now, I prefer to use a brown lip liner because you can slightly overdraw your lips, and that way if you do make a bit of a mistake, it hasn't ruined your whole face. But if you want to use a red lip liner, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to assume 99.9% of dance schools use red lipstick for dance concerts, unless you're maybe doing a special dance that needs a particular colour. I prefer an orange red just because I feel it stands out the most on stage, but again, go with something that suits your skin colour. I like to use the bullet to go around most of the lips, and then I use a small lip brush just to define the edges and make sure I have a nice clean line. The final step of this tutorial. I hope you have enjoyed part 2 of my stage makeup series. The third and final part will be a hair tutorial on a few hairstyles that are quite common in dance concerts. If there's anything particular you would like me to do, please leave it below in the comments. Make sure that you give this video a thumbs up and make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a fantastic concert. Bye!